with this next session, which is about active packaging. And as all of these, there's a question we want to answer. And the question is, what is the benefit of PHBB active packaging for food applications? So we have Fanny Coupinier from Montpellier.
Yeah.
And also, we're going to be later on have Fabio Ricciardello from Unimore and Anthony Hatfield. So, Fanny, over to you.
Thank you. So, yes, I'm Fanny Coupinier from the University of Montpellier. And we will see what is the benefit of PHBB active packaging for food application. And, okay, it's not working. To go to the other side. It doesn't work anymore.
Pour myself. Besoin? Une deuxième.
Okay.
C'est bon, si tu peux plancher. C'est bon, je crois. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I was working at home this morning.
Okay.
All right, I'm just going to manually go through the slides.
Closer.
Yes, it's fine, yeah.
Sound is not very good. Okay. But I can use phone.
Yes, you can use that.
Thank you. Okay, so I will talk about two case studies, falafel and cheese. Next, please. There are a lot of animations, I'm sorry. As already presented this morning, for falafel and cheese, the packaging is on the. It's working. Okay. It's okay now. I can stay here. It's better. Where's the microphone? Okay. So falafel and cheese are on the modified atmosphere packaging, and as it was shown this morning, there is between 50 and 70% of nitrogen and 30 and 50% of carbon dioxide. However, okay, depending on the permeation of the material.
Dear, if you could you stand here like that?
Okay, I can show you here. So depending on the mass transfer, nitrogen and oxygen can go inside the packaging while carbon dioxide can go outside. And so the entrance of oxygen can create and lead to aerobic microbial growth and oxidation of food. Okay.
Now it's walking. It's walking. And from here, no, not all.
There is a delay between click and then
show must go on. Okay, I suggest that you say next because
Okay.
okay.
Yeah, okay, first slide. So we can have, due to the entrance of oxygen, development of aerobic microbial growth and oxidation of food. So to avoid this kind of problem, we can use active packaging, and for that, we have here directly in the material some active molecules, and these active molecules can absorb directly, for example, oxygen from headspace, or it can be released inside the packaging to have benefits on the food. So, for example, it could be oxygen scavenger, and oxygen scavenger can limit oxidation and aerobic metabolites. It could also be antimicrobial compounds, and it will limit microbial growth. In our case, we will talk about antimicrobial compounds with Fabio. So the objective, yes, thank you, is to correctly dimension the active packaging to increase the shelf life of the food. And so next slide. How to dimension the active packaging? So first, yes, we need to compare the admissible daily intake and the natural exposure of the active molecule. The admissible daily intake is a quantity that can be hit without which and toxicity. And natural exposure is a quantity that is hit per day for one person, depending on the natural presence of the molecule in the food. And so, two cases is possible. The admissible, the natural exposure, could be higher than the admissible daily intake, and in this case, we cannot use the molecule. Yes, we cannot use the molecule for an active packaging. In a second case, natural exposure would be lower than the admissible daily intake, and in this case, a molecule can be used for active packaging. So, in this case, the second point is to compare the quantity that can be had without reaching the admissible daily intake with the minimal inhibitory concentration and other thresholds. So minimal inhibitory concentration is the minimal concentration of the active component that could inhibit the microorganism growth. And the other threshold is the threshold above which there is a smell that appears in the packaging. So the quantity that can be had before reaching the admissible daily intake, two possibilities again. The first one, thank you. If this quantity is really far lower than the minimal inhibitory concentration, or if it's higher than the other threshold, the molecule cannot be used for active packaging. Or in the second case, this quantity that can be had before reaching admissible daily intake could be close to minimal inhibitory concentration or higher. Or if it's lower to other threshold, in this case, the molecule can be used for active packaging. So now I will present you the example of caracol. So caracol is an aromatical molecule naturally present in oregano oil and tea. And the antimicrobial effect is already known on microorganisms, yeast, and mold. This molecule was used in GLOPAC project for falafel project. Why? Because it's volatile compound, and so it would be interesting for food like falafel, where the contact of the food with the packaging is low. And we decided to encapsulate the molecule with beta-cyclodextrin. There is two reasons for that. It's because it can avoid the thermal degradation of the caracol during thermoforming of packaging, and also because it can control the release of molecules, because encapsulation can be open or closed depending on the humidity. So, next slide. Yes, the admissible daily intake for caracol is 1,800 micrograms per person per day, and the natural exposure was estimated by Global and it's 24 micrograms per person per day. So it's lower than admissible daily intake, so we can use for active packaging. And we have the possibility to add until 1,776 micrograms per person per day. And we also know that the minimal inhibitory concentration is okay, between 4.6 multiplied by 10 minus 5 and 5 multiplied by 10 minus 3 kilograms per cubic meter, depending on the microorganism, of course. And the question is this quantity here that we can add is enough to reach minimal inhibitory concentration? To respond to this question, we can use modeling tools. So some modeling tools will be presented after at the end of the day. So here we use the modeling tools with the exact dimension of the packaging for falafel and the exact properties of the packaging of falafel. And we try to see what's happened if we had 1% of Cavachol in the film only, so no Cavachol in tray, just in film. And you can see there the results. So here we have the Cavachol concentration in its space depending on time. And in red and blue, you can see the lower and upper mic depending on the microorganism. And we can say there in black that the concentration of Cavachol in its space is between the lower and upper mic. So we can conclude that the concentration in its space is enough to inhibit the microorganism growth. But if you remember the first part of the presentation, we also need to see if this quantity is lower than the admissible daily intake. So we make the calculation, assuming that one person will eat 1 pack of falafel in 1 day, and that all this Cavachol in its space will diffuse into food. And we find 332 micrograms per person per day, so it's really lower than the admissible daily intake minus natural exposure. So we can use this concentration in the film. We make a second simulation with 5%, and we can see here again that the concentration in a space of Cavachol is between upper and lower mic and closer to the upper mic. And we can see here that we are close to the admissible daily intake. So in conclusion, we can use between 1% and 5% of Cavachol in the film to inhibit the microorganism growth without reaching the admissible daily intake. But here it's modeling, and we need to validate this model by experiments. So yes, and this part is ongoing. To avoid overproduction of packaging, we first decided to just put between 1 and 5% of Cavachol in PHPV pads. And these pads will be put directly in the bottom of the usual packaging of falafel. And after, shelf life will be done by Lavrier-Bell. And experiments about microbial count will be done by Pack-Portwood, and University of Montpellier will measure the quantity that will remain in the pad, the quantity of Cavachol. The first experiments were not conclusive because there was no release of Cavachol in the space, and in consequence, there is no microbial inhibition and no increase of shelf life. And we suppose here that this problem comes from beta-cyclodextrin because this molecule can make link with PHPV and consequently cannot be open to release the Cavachol. So now other experiments are currently done with no encapsulation of the Cavachol. So this part is ongoing, so there is no result yet. So in conclusion for this presentation, dimensioning active packaging allows to select the best potential molecule and the quantity to add in packaging to inhibit microorganism growth while remaining below the admissible daily intake. Cavachol seems to be a good candidate for falafel. Between 1 and 5% of the molecule can be had in the film. And these modeling results need to be validated through experimental work, and this part is ongoing. So thank you.
Now passing over to Fabio Licciardello. Fabio, ci sei?
See, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can, yes.
So maybe you can also see me now.
We can't see you yet. Maybe we can just change the setting there. Yes, we can see you now.
Okay.
Welcome.
Would it be possible for me to share my screen because I made some changes in this presentation you have, or?
Can we do that? Yeah. Yes, I think we can do that.
Okay, let's try. If it's a problem, then we go back to the previous. So, yeah, here it is. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. Unfortunately, I cannot be there today with you, but I'm pleased to share the contribution of Unimore in this project. So first of all, I would like to highlight what was our role in the project. Unimore has been linked third party of CodeBox in this project, contributing especially to work packages 3 and 4. So we have been committed in the development of active caps, especially with the incorporation of LAE, and we have contributed also to the setting of shelf life tests with the SolidHub. I tried to synthesize here the interactions that have been done in this on this topic. It has not been very easy because there have been several interactions and the flows of material and information. So basically, we have interacted with Crème Global, who especially performed the exposure assessment of the LAE. Then we made the testing effectiveness of LAE, and we tested the thermal stability of this compound. And afterwards, the development of the active caps was done by Fraunhofer and Furstglas under coordination of University of Montpellier. Finally, we tested the release of LAE from the active caps, and we collaborated with SolidHub on the shelf life tests that I will briefly present. So for those who are not familiar with the concept, I just report the definition of active packaging. Active packages are materials or articles that are intended to extend the shelf life by incorporation of components that release or absorb substances. So in our case, we deal with antimicrobial active packaging, which release active compounds. Just a short introduction on LAE. So we chose this antimicrobial. It's a synthetic antimicrobial compound, which is commercialized by La Mirsa in Spain, who I thank for supplying samples of their products. This compound has been authorized by EFSA, so it is possible to use it in food up to 160 parts per million. It's non-volatile, so in this case we don't have a problem of odor threshold. So we don't refer to odor threshold in the design of an active packaging with LAE, and it has a broad spectrum of antimicrobial activity. So the objective of the dimensioning of these active caps was to reach concentration in the food, which is close to the minimum inhibitory concentration of spoilage microorganisms, and to not exceed the admissible daily intake. From the exposure assessment of Crème Global, we know that it is possible to include LAE in cheese, as in this case, because we know that the exposure does not reach the admissible daily intake. So averagely, the exposure to LAE, the population, European population, is in average around 20% of ADI, the admissible daily intake. So what we needed for this study was to study the MIC, the minimum inhibitory concentration, against spoilage microorganisms, to verify the thermal stability, so the suitability of LAE for inclusion in a packaging through extrusion and injection molding, and the verification of the migration from the active cups. So rapidly, we isolated spoilage molds from cheese, from spoiled cheese. We simply purified and selected one mold, which was belonged to the Penicillium genus. We didn't identify the species. Anyway, then we tested these target microorganisms in vitro tests. We calculated the minimum inhibitory concentration, which was around 250 parts per million in a synthetic medium. And then we verified the thermal stability of LAE. This was a very important point for us because if LAE is not thermally stable, we couldn't use it in further processing. But we could verify that it's very resistant to heating, up to 170 degrees for 15 minutes. So as we can see from the slide, the growth of the mold is inhibited at 250 ppm, irrespective of the treatment, 150, 60 or 70 degrees. And we replicated the experiment just to be sure that we had similar results. So we assume that LAE is not degraded by heat, so it's compatible with packaging processing. And then LAE was incorporated in the cups at 1.16% from the University of Montpellier through collaboration with the FUSPLAST and Fraunhofer. So we tested the migration through migration test, following the indication of European regulations. So with the D1 simulant, which is 50% ethanol, for 10 days at 20 degrees. We decided then to calculate the approximate concentration of LAE in the migrated residue through an indirect approach. So we evaluated the antimicrobial activity of the residue. And we also analyzed the glycerol content because LAE was formulated with glycerol. So we could understand that most of the migrant was made of glycerol, which is a problem for us. So we decided afterwards to change the formulation, LAE formulation. Anyway, from the migrated residue in vitro, we could assess an approximate concentration of LAE which migrated from the cups to the simulant, which was around 125 ppm. So this is a small percentage, a small fraction of the LAE incorporated in the cup. And so we decided to try to obtain new cups with a higher percentage. So a new formulation, Mirenat ET20, formulated with ethanol and water. So the new cups, which we received from Fraunhofer, from FUSPLAST, were then addressed to shelf life test by Soledad and to new migration tests, which we did. The shelf life test was quite successful because we saw some inhibition after 13 days of the mold. This mold was Penicillium, but the Aerobia didn't give the same results. It was it was very less sensitive to LAE compared to Penicillium. So we asked ourselves if the migration of LAE is really so low, and then we again tested the migrated residue for the antimicrobial effectiveness against the same microorganisms that Soledad tested. Also, in this case, we had a slight decrease of growth, but this demonstrated actually that LAE migrates from the active caps at very low amounts and slowly. So, in conclusion, LAE can be effective at slowing down the growth of spoilage molds, and even if the migration level is low, this low level anyway can be beneficial in compensating possible losses of modified atmosphere due to seal failure or gas permeability. And it could be also effective at extending the secondary shelf life once the package has been opened. So before leaving the floor, I would like to thank our collaborators, COBOX, University of Montpellier, the Fraunhofer Institute, Soledad, Lamirsa, who supplied the samples of LAE formulations and the photo information, and my colleagues from the University of Modern Virginia. And thank you all for your attention.